People buy based on emotion and they justify it with logic. So what questions can I ask? What's the template for any business that you could put together to get people, without them even knowing, sharing with you within minutes?
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have the sales sensei, Joe Marcoux. Joe is a sales professional dedicated to transforming individuals and businesses. He empowers teams to create buying conversations and close deals without the stigma of sales pushiness. Creator of the S.O.S Dojo, a live and virtual training ground where individuals practice and earn their black belt in sales. Through the dojo, Joe and his team equip entrepreneurs with the skills to navigate any objection. Joe is here to guide you on your own hero's journey. He's a creative sales master, leading countless individuals and businesses to sales success. And today, he's going to share some of his tips about how you can grow your business. Joe, welcome to the show.
Fabulous to be here, man. Good to see you. Looking good, by the way. The beard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I trimmed it off here recently. My wife calls it my holiday beard because I usually grow it from like Thanksgiving to Easter, and yeah, we got Easter coming up here. So as we record this, so it's gone. It's gone for the season.
You look great.
So we'll get some. Thank you. But yeah, it's wild when the temperature dips. I can feel the cool air, and I remember part of the reason I grow it here. And man, you're up in Canada. I'm surprised you don't have a full woolly mammoth coat on there.
This is again, full transparency. This is as far as I want to go. Because the genetics are what they are. I've got a lot of white going on in the beard. I've not so like weird.
No, you look great. You look young. Yeah.
Thank you. And I work at it, right? So that's the debate. Do I let it go? I mean, I go through these phases. Letting it grow out. It's really white and it ages me, and I want to stay young, man, and I want to feel young. And that's part of why we're alive. Verve and good energy. So,
Absolutely. Energy is important when it comes to sales, which we're going to be talking about today. One of my favorite topics. Spent most of my career, really my entire career, in it. And one of the things I like to say is that everybody sells. Everybody sells. And it's something that people, it gets a bad rap because people are like, well, I don't want to be like a used car salesman. And, you know, that old expression, like you can sell ice to an Eskimo. And I hate that because to me, sales is really about communication and taking a product or a service and seeing if it's a good fit for somebody and communicating that. And you have an awesome business teaching business owners, anyone that wants to learn how to sell. You have a proven system, Joe, that we're going to go through today. But before we do, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background with the audience.
Yeah. So I started off in this world of sales based on a passion to help people. I got quickly into this world of lifting weights and bodybuilding as a young teen. And I got the opportunity at the age of 17 to manage an exercise equipment retail store here in my hometown of Winnipeg. By the age of 20, I got offered to buy into the store, and there were just too many ladles in the soup. And I just said, you know what? Long story short, at 20, I'm going to open up my own. It was, when I think of it now, 20 years old. And over that time period, from the age of 20 to 25, it was a struggle. And what I needed to learn was, how the hell do I sell? Because I changed the way that I looked at it. It was like I knew that there was an opportunity to sell higher ticket exercise equipment for people's homes. Because if you remember Faith Popcorn, he was talking about back in those days, people could afford to have their gyms at home instead of going to a gym. And there's a book that's called Boom Echo by an author by the name of David K. Foote. And what he talked about was how the demographic shift of the baby boomer, which of course, if you're in business, you're in sales, following that trend, these were people that could afford to buy treadmills for their homes. So I took full advantage of it. I still needed to learn how to sell. I knew I had a passion for the way that exercise made me feel. I needed to learn the process. So I dug deep, and I got knowledge, and I paid for knowledge from, give you a quick list of some of the people: Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Jeffrey Gitomer, Jim Rohn. Got an opportunity to actually work directly with Jim Rohn, which was like
super cool.
mind-boggling. Tony Robbins, of course, Bob Proctor, and many others. And so over the years, I mean, I've spent lots of money on mentorship. As of you,
Yeah,
we've known each other in a mastermind, and we pay to
absolutely.
be there. And so, and the thing is, sales has changed since when I was in my late teens, early 20s to where it is now because people are getting smarter.
Yes.
You don't want fooled, and there's still the stigma, like you said. I don't want to be sold, and I agree. I
Yeah.
I don't want to be sold either. I want to choose to buy, and
Yeah.
I that's my belief. You don't want to be sold anything. You want to
Yeah.
buy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. And although I do appreciate, like, I want people to give me the effort. So, if
Oh yeah,
somebody's trying to
yeah.
sell me something, I'm like, you got to call me back. You got to try. I was part of I won't mention the name, but I was part of a big, like, worldwide coaching program. And, they were like, well, are you going to sign up again for next year? I said, I'm not sure. And, I was kind of like saying, hey, like, convince me of this.
Right.
And, they're like, oh, your coach isn't really going to be happy to hear that. And then I never heard from him. And I was like, well,
Wow.
I guess they don't really want the business. So, there are sometimes I'm sensitive. I'm sensitive to really good service and really good sales. And I'm
As
also
you should be.
sensitive to, yeah, really, really, really bad sales. But,
What's the
um,
desire that was missing for you to buy?
yeah, so for me, it was during COVID, full transparency, and they went from in person to virtual, and I just didn't
Okay.
really get the same value out of it
Mm,
with the virtual experience. I really valued that in person. I'm going to
yeah.
see you next week at an in
Right.
person event. Um, as a matter of fact, so Joe, like
Interesting.
me, you've had tons of sales training, tons of sales mentorship, tons of sales experience. Talk about who you focus on working with now to help translate some of that knowledge to real world results.
So it's interesting because the area is in one aspect, there's online businesses and online coaches.
Yes.
What I find now is that there's an aspect for my corporate side, which is growing dramatically because corporations see the value in sales training, whereas
Hmm.
individuals think that they can do it themselves. So the corporate side for me has been great because these are people with teams,
Yeah.
and it could be brick and mortar, or it could be that they're work from home, and yet they still need to develop the skill set of communication, which really comes down to three C's. You need to be able to have a level of confidence, you need to have a level of conviction, willingness to do the practice, and then you need to have a willingness to understand that you're likely lacking control.
Mm.
So confidence, conviction, and control. So
Yeah.
confidence is when you speak in such a way where people believe you. Conviction is coming in and doing the work and the practice and understanding tone and body language in the process so
Right.
that people believe in you. There's
Right.
believing you and believing in you.
Yeah.
And then the control which is where most people lack because they want to pitch. They're well meaning, their hearts are in the right place. Yet because they don't have control, they repel people. And
Yeah.
so those are the three C's the overlying effect that we work on. And so what's interesting is I've individual small business owners, solopreneurs. I've got corporations that coming in with teams, and then I've got people that are saying, and this is the new area that we're delving into,
Yeah.
and you'll really appreciate this, Chris, is that they're people that want to learn the skill and become a remote salesperson because
Mm.
that's the
Yeah.
ticket. It's
Yeah.
for them, it's their ticket to financial freedom because they've been
Yeah.
stuck in a 9 to 5 or they're working
Yes.
in a job and they need to learn the skill. Because now
Yeah.
I get business owners saying, "Hey Joe, who have you got in your roster that's a black belt? Because we've got a belt ascension model. Who's
Yeah.
a black belt that I could bring to my team?" And that's another portion of the business. So I get people that pay me to want to learn the skill, and then I've got people that pay me to be able to set them up with closers.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I got interested in sales. I kind of fell into it. Like I my family didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid, and I had the opportunity to sell it was like wrapping paper door to door. I forget what the company was.
Oh, that's
And
great.
yeah, I'd go door to door, and then I was selling newspapers, and then which is kind of like you have a route. That wasn't a ton of sales, but you got to go and collect money and do that.
And
And
knock
then,
on doors.
oh yeah.
Were
Oh
you ever
yeah.
nervous?
Well,
Did you ever
looking
feel that
back,
nervousness?
I don't remember being nervous at the time.
I love it.
Um, I will kind of walk through some of the scenarios, but, And then I did like lawn service. So I would, talk to people and I'd be like, hey, can I mow your lawn? I would do leaves at the end of the summer, like in the
Right.
fall. And man, I'd charge like $300. And this was like 40 years ago, to, rake and mow and do all this. And my stepdad
Yep.
helped me with
And
his
clean
dump
it up.
truck. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and then I sold Cutco knives. So I got to sell
Okay.
Cutco knives in college.
Great sales
Yeah.
training there.
Oh yeah, great sales
Yeah.
training. And I had my
Yeah.
little sticker with my smiley face as you brought some great energy as we started the podcast here today, Joe. I remember, it popped into my head. But I'll tell you what, man, I'll never forget in 2015 when I made my first call to an investor before we even had our first real estate syndication. I was so nervous. I was like, well, and I just remember standing there like, okay, I gotta like, you know, get calmed down. And I spent 18 years in medical device and pharmaceutical sales as well.
That's right.
So I've done literally thousands of sales calls over the years. So yeah, from time to time, I think back, I'm like, yeah, I had some nerves here and there, when it came to different things.
What's
Um,
interesting, I got to
but
ask,
yeah,
Chris, is that
yeah,
because I love this, with all the variety
yeah,
of things that you've sold, you
yeah,
notice, do you notice a common theme in terms of process? Because a lot of people would say
yeah.
sales is an art form, and I'm going to
Mm,
cry
yeah.
BS. It's not art. It's it's a process.
Process, sure. Yeah,
Once you nail the
yeah,
process, then you can turn it
yeah,
into your own and you authenticate it. That's when the
yeah,
art form takes place. You've got to put in the reps. So my question
yeah,
to you is, what were the things that even from your wrapping paper
yeah,
sales to medical sales
yeah.
to real estate and real
Oh,
estate
life
investment?
insurance. Yeah.
Right. So what were the things that are the common denominator in terms of the process that you noticed?
Yeah, so going back, like my early, quote unquote, early sales career, the wrapping paper, it was just like a young kid,
Sure.
basically like have mercy on me. Oh,
Yeah.
and I
You
raised
want
money
it, yes or no,
at
right? Sure.
15, I raised money for our cycling team, which is big, like you're really selling something,
Yeah.
with respect to that. But early on, I would focus on the presentation, like the mechanics of it.
Mm,
And I would get really like I was good at like regurgitating a presentation, hearing something and then repeating it.
right.
I could hear a presentation like one time and repeat it. So it was
Yeah.
very that
Good
was a
for you.
skill that I had. But as I moved on in my career, Joe, what I found was you had to kind of throw out all that and you had to reverse the process. And what I
Right.
mean by that is I would walk into surgeons' offices and they'd be like, "Hey, what do you have to show me?" They wanted to see the presentation. And
Sure.
you know what I would always bring? Nothing.
Nothing.
I'd bring nothing. And I'd sit down with them and I'd say, "Joe, Dr. Marcoux, tell me about your practice. Tell me
Yes.
about what what is your why, what you really care about."
Love
And
it.
that's what I wanted to find out. Like what is holding your practice back? What is your biggest pain point? And at that point, then I could say, okay, here's a solution that we have to that. And it wasn't a widget.
Right.
I think people's perception of sales is, hey, go tell somebody why they should buy a widget. But what I
Yep.
learned was sales is really finding out what is somebody's why, what are their pain points, what are they trying to accomplish, and do you have something that can help them accomplish that and
And
translating
so
that to them.
so you've got it.
Yeah.
And to take it to the next level,
Yeah.
little
Love it.
little segue there. And you got to make it fun too, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
where you started and where
Yeah.
you are now. This is
Yeah.
what I've picked up. This is
Yeah.
what the I hope the listener and viewer are picking up on this.
Yeah.
What you do so well is, and this is where it separates,
Yeah.
there's good, there's first of all, there's rookie and there's good, and then there's great. So the rookie person goes in and sells the widget. They just
Yeah.
talk about the widget and they
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
So it's features. It's all features,
Yeah.
features. Then what you if you go back and listen to what you said, you then got good and you sold outcomes based on
Features,
the
benefits,
solution.
outcomes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The greats sell the feeling.
Mm.
So, what
Yeah.
will it feel like
Yeah.
when this outcome happens? So, using your first question to the doc, for example,
Yeah.
Dr. Marcoux in this context was, tell me about your
Yeah.
practice. So then it's explain to me. there's an acronym that we like to use
Yeah.
in the dojo called TED. It's tell me, explain to me, describe me. So TED. You can use it in
Mhm.
any order you want.
Yeah.
So it's tell me how it feels, not what you think. So the experts will go in field-based questions because
Mm.
people buy based on emotion and they justify
Yeah.
it with logic. So you need both.
There you go.
It's
Yeah.
just that once you dig into those questions, like what questions can I ask? What's the template for any business
Yeah.
that you could put together to get people without them even knowing, sharing with you within minutes of the way that they feel about a specific outcome that you
Yeah.
could or could not, depending on what the solution is that you have
Yeah.
to offer, could present them. And if you can't provide them the good feeling, that's okay. And here's the thing:
Yeah.
if you have a what I call a buying conversation, or you're in a sales call,
Yeah.
the sales cycle with some people is longer
Sure.
based on
Yeah.
the price of the goods.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's $1,000. Do that on a 15-minute call. If
Yeah.
you're doing an 8-figure deal,
Yeah.
this is going to take a while because people have to get to know you,
Hmm.
really like you, and trust
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And the aspect in sales that needs to be understood is, what do I need to do to be able to get that intangible like factor?
Yeah.
And so go back to,
Yeah.
rookies or not so
Yeah.
good salespeople do it based on features. You're getting to the outcome. You sell the feeling.
Yeah.
Even if it's one call and it's like at the end of that call, somebody feels good, they'll give you the next call. So think of
Yeah.
that group that was going virtual that you
Yeah.
talked about. You didn't feel good. There was no need
Yeah.
for another call.
Yeah.
Had they said, hey, you know what, Chris, we know you're busy. We're going to, they made you feel good about the experience that you had
Yeah.
so far in this experience. And now, if the if question, if by going virtual, we were still able to connect with you with the right people where you could still feel over this time of COVID,
Yeah.
still feel alignment with this community, would that interest you?
Yeah.
They didn't go there with you.
Yeah.
Where they went was, your coach is going to feel bad. I'm out. There's no next call.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. They took the opposite tact, which was interesting. But
Guilt.
yeah, I was on the fence, so it was easy. It was easy for me to do that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we like you said, people buy on emotion. They justify it, with logic, with that.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of giving that information and kind of the logical progression of that sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, talking about knives, Joe, you're talking about selling like a couple $100 set of knives or,
Sure.
$20 of wrapping paper. It took us like 18 months, on average to convert a surgeon in the medical device field. Share a
Okay.
little bit about, you mentioned like that $1,000 sale, like some more simple type sales versus more complex, and how you work with your clients to adjust to those sorts of scenarios.
There's still a process in all
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So with anything, first
Hmm.
and foremost, in our world, this is part of a formula that I show people to do. Is the formula is called the 7-11-4 formula.
Yeah.
You doing this right now, this half hour that you and I are spending,
Yeah.
if it's compelling enough, people are going to watch it and they're going to listen to it. That
Yeah.
becomes part of our 7 of the 7-11-4.
Okay.
People need to consume 7 hours of content
Hmm.
over 11 different instances over 4 different locations. So a location could be a live event. They could see you speak at an event, or they could hear you on a podcast, or they social media, different platforms. So there's 7 hours. Again, you can have 100 hours of content out there. If your content sucks, then you're not right. Nobody's going to listen to it. Nobody's going to
Right.
watch. So your content's got to be good. It's got to be, purposeful,
Hmm.
valuable, shareable.
Hmm.
Once you got your 7-11-4, then it's okay, book a call. That's the point
Gotcha.
where
Yeah.
if you got a live and in-person business, a brick and mortar business, people don't just go, oh wow, look at that sign, walk in anymore. They
Yeah.
now they do their research.
Yeah.
And so
Chat GPT, tell me.
yeah. So opening the door is sometimes the hardest part. It's the
Yeah.
heaviest thing that people need to lift.
Yeah.
Then you need to instantly build rapport. So keep in mind, they've gotten to know you, Chris. There's people that they've been watching you for hours and hours, and then
Yeah.
when they finally meet you, they already have a sense that they know you. You don't know them at all. So you've got to get to know them, right? So it's
Sure.
Doesn't matter if it's $1,000 or if it's $100 million. It's how to win friends and influence people all over
Yeah.
again. Be
Dale
interested.
Carnegie. Yeah.
Right. So go back to, because we're standing, you and I are standing on the shoulders of giants. So
Yeah.
what is the essence of that great book? Be interested.
Yeah.
What
Very
questions
good.
can I ask to find out more? You said it. Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about your practice.
Yeah.
You know, and then what we recommend is whether it's $1,000 or 100 million, do some work before work. There's
Yeah.
process here. Who are you going to meet with? If they're booking an appointment, do a little bit of work, do some background. It's social media, it's there. You're not a stalker. You're actually doing a little bit of work, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Then it's what questions can I ask where I can find a common bond? And it's not about being cheesy, it's
Yeah.
about being authentic. So for you mentioned cycling. I used to be in the cycling industry. So I could
Yeah.
ask you, how many bikes have you got in the stable?
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed that you
I
ride.
keep it down to 3 now. I used to have 8. Yeah.
So, right? So now this is, and what's interesting is with your social media, it's not just Chris, the investor guy, the real estate guy. It's you get to know Chris, the guy who rides a bike. What kind of bike does he ride? Some of the challenging rides that he's been on. And because now I've gotten to know you as Chris, I'm more likely to connect with you.
Sure. Yeah.
The old school funnels don't work anymore.
Yeah.
Google's
No, I've
proven this.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and that's why I want to touch on that. But yeah, something popped in my head. You were talking about a stalker. I remembered one of my wife's friends. She said, "Oh, this guy was so charming. He found my car, and he put a note on it in the parking garage." And I said, Aaron, I said, the only difference between that dude and a stalker is that you're attracted to him."
Well, and you know what? There's something to be said about this is part of sales.
Yes, yeah,
Part of sales is actually having the right energy, being
that's right.
attractive.
Yeah, just like that
So
Saturday Night Live skit with Tom Brady. How not to get a sexual harassment lawsuit. Be attractive.
be attractive. Dude, if you look at the part of the work before the work is,
Yeah,
and we practice this in our mastermind, right? What
yeah,
time are you going to bed? Are you eating
yes,
right? Are you
yeah,
drinking plenty of water?
yeah,
Are you getting enough sleep? Are you
yeah,
surrounding yourself by the people and conditions that you want to produce?
yeah,
Because those are repetitions that you're putting to get better.
yes,
Like just what we do is we practice live where we get people to say certain things,
yeah,
overcome objections, prevent objections. What questions can you ask to be able to get people
yeah,
to feel compelled and they don't know why? Like there's some
mm,
intelligence agency stuff that we do within the dojo
yeah,
that could be used maliciously. We use it for
mm,
good.
yeah,
This is why we're very selective about who we bring into the program
yeah,
because if it was just for everybody, like there's a dark side to this
yeah. There
logo,
you go.
right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah,
we want people to, again, because that's where sales gets the bad rap. And those
yeah,
people that
that's right.
understand neurolinguistics, who understand body language and how to program, like if you use it negatively, this is where if you learn these steps, you learn these things, then you
Yeah,
can know when it's happening to you. And it
yeah.
happens out there a lot.
Yeah. No, very, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. And, again, you see that in industries with a lot of money, like med device had a lot of that. You'd see just bad things happening,
Yeah.
bad relationships, people taking advantage of different situations. And, it's a lot, you hear this stuff in the dating world too. And, sales, I think is a lot like dating, it's
It
okay.
is.
When I used to tell my reps, mostly the males this, but, it's like, hey, it's okay. You go on a date with a woman, she knows you're interested. I tell
For sure.
my son, he just turned 15. I'm like, hey, you're gonna ask her out? He's like, oh no, no. I'm like, dude, she's talking to you. She wants you to ask her out,
Yeah.
And that's a piece of it. Like there's two sides to it. If somebody's talking to you, they want to get information, they want to engage, have their questions answered, and do that. But so it's okay to do your job as a salesperson, but it's not okay to take advantage of people and do that.
And having that level of confidence, coming back to that, right? What do you do to
Yeah.
be able to feel confident? Your
Right.
son is 15.
Yeah.
So, when you're getting into the dating world, for the most part, that
Yeah.
experience, even as people who have been married for a very long time,
Yeah.
there are aspects to sales that if we want to be able to achieve a certain outcome so that we feel good,
Right.
talking about making love to our wives in this context. There's a sale that needs to happen. And again, I'm
Sure.
not being methodical here.
Yeah.
We have to be asking questions. We have to
Yeah.
be giving of our listening,
Yeah.
and we have to lead with empathy. There's ease of sales, which are energy,
Yeah.
enthusiasm, and empathy, because it ain't about anyone else other than your guest. It ain't about you.
Yeah. I love that. Energy, enthusiasm, and empathy.
Yeah.
Joe, you were talking about, the old school funnel, right? Doesn't really
Yep.
work anymore. Share a little bit about, I got a couple questions around this, but what's the difference between marketing and sales? Because when I was in sales with companies, we'd have the marketing, side of things, and it was secondary in terms of budget, but it was very important because without the marketing, it was hard to
Mm.
have the right tools in place for sales. Now, some things you don't really need a lot of marketing. You don't need a lot of tools. It's very simple, maybe just a conversation. But how do you see marketing with sales?
Marketing now is a question of exposure. So the
Like you said, the
exposure,
7-Eleven 4 is part of that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the exposure, and where is your ideal client? Where are they?
Yeah.
So are they on Instagram?
Mhm.
Then follow the methods of what that platform would expect you to do.
Yeah.
And then you still need to be brave enough to
Right.
not just be only that one thing. Because now
Right.
the old school funnel, like literally a year ago, was get in the funnel,
Yeah.
provide a lead magnet, exchange an email address and/or an
Right.
email address and phone number.
Yeah.
So now people know if I'm going to give my email address, they're going to give one of multiple email addresses. People don't just have
Right.
one email anymore, number one.
Yeah.
Number two is they can still opt out immediately. They can subscribe the
Mhm.
second that they get. So people can get out. So the exposure in all of this is that now we need to be able to allow people to explore and evaluate not only the brand and the features of what we do, they want to explore and evaluate the people,
Right.
because AI, which I love AI and all the tools they provide, the missing piece for many of us in business right
Yeah.
now, again, we're the missing piece is AI. It's
Yeah.
and this is what we practice is human interaction.
Yes.
The
Yes.
skill set of communication, of using this voice box, of using your body language.
Yeah.
Like what eye do I look at when I'm speaking to
Mm.
someone live and in person? Some people
Yeah.
like they're shifty, or they don't realize that they're giving off like these weird vibes.
Yeah.
55% of the way we communicate, Chris, is body language.
Yeah.
And you ever meet
55.
somebody
55?
55,
Yeah, 55. Just so everybody hears
38
that.
is tone.
Yeah.
So people are always asking me, "Hey Joe, what do I need to do to be able to overcome this objection? Like what do I say?" It's like I can give you all the scripts in the world.
Yeah.
That's 7% of the challenge.
Right.
93 is your tone and body language.
Wow.
So having exposure from a
Yeah.
marketing perspective, you need to literally expose yourself and not be afraid of having a video that's only going to get 5 views. If you, let's
Right.
say you're only getting 1,000 views on your videos, or in some cases, like I get videos that are like 200, 300 views. That's it. That's it. That's it. If
Yeah.
I'm afraid to post a video that, oh man, this might suck and might get five, if that fear stops me from doing that from my marketing perspective,
Yeah.
it's that same fear that will stop me from getting a 5 million view video.
That's right. That's right.
You
Yeah.
got to put stuff out there
Yeah.
and just no different than practicing the live role play of
Right.
sales. You have to embrace suck. It's not going to
Yes.
be easy.
Yep.
It's
Just
not
like
going to
any,
be easy.
yeah, just like anything. That's one of the reasons I love sports. I'm trying, both my boys are actively involved. And I was sharing this with a coaching client yesterday, Joe. He said, actually his name's Joe as well. He goes, I just I don't love what I do. And he's like,
Mm.
is that okay? He's like, I'm good at it. And he's like, but I don't like love it, And I said, yeah, but I said, Joe, you play sports. I said, did you love every practice? He said, well, no. I said, did you love every game? He said, no. I said, but did you love the result you got in the games that mattered because
How
of
did
the
it
work you
feel?
put in?
Yeah,
Right. And
you
he
sold the
said,
feeling there.
he's like, yeah. And I said, look, if you go to work 3 out of 5 days a week and you don't hate it, I was like, you're doing pretty good. I said, there's going
Yeah,
to be some tough days that lead to those really good days. And I
yeah,
said, just like a good athlete, I'm a cyclist, man. You lose like 99% of the races you enter. Talk about learning how to
sure.
lose and get
No
rejected. I
kidding.
mean, it's just like anything. You got a flat tire, you got, not enough water, you got the wrong,
You
this
bonk
or
out,
that.
man.
Oh
I
yeah, it's
know it.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. The wrong, Rodden, you get the wrong, clothing choice. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So that learning to push through, like you said, embracing the suck and doing that, I think is super important. Um, Before we wrap up, you mentioned AI.
Yeah.
I love being in industries that AI can supplement, but is not going to disintermediate. That's not going to totally wipe off the map.
Yeah.
How I'm working on an AI version of Chris to go out there and do all this stuff for me. But how do you see AI positively affecting and negatively infecting sales going forward?
Yeah, it did. And that's interesting. It's negatively infecting, is what I heard. I don't know if that's what you said.
I
There's
think
going to
I
be a part
probably
of that.
slipped, but yeah, I meant impacting, but yeah,
So the AI is definitely going to be helpful in the sense
yeah,
of creating bot for
yeah,
automated responses
right,
in it's already happening.
yeah,
I mean, automated responses
yeah,
for setting or helping you create content
yeah,
and giving you ideas. It's getting to a point now, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger has a podcast that is out there that he's monetized and he's actually never been on it.
yeah. It just
It's
takes his
it's
feature. Yeah, it's
it's
pretty
all
wild.
his
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, all it's a he's never been on it. And it's being watched and or it's being listened to. So
incredible. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's a difference that in that world of celebrity, that's one thing.
yeah,
So the challenge is, yes, there's going to be a. I think AI is going to make people feel uncomfortable because there's a
mm.
level of distrust.
Oh yeah,
So
great point.
there's going to be a necessity, and already we're seeing it. There's a recession
Yeah,
in again HI, the human interaction,
mm.
and there's a complete demographic, in fact, of them that because they have a lack in the skill set of communication.
Yeah,
I'll give you an example. There's people that when you meet them, they always ask their name when you meet them
yeah,
because it's in the form of a question. It's like, and listen to the difference. These are
yeah,
subtle things that make a huge difference to the outcome. This is atomic habits. They ask
yeah.
their name. Hi, I'm Joe Marcoux, as opposed to, hi, I'm Joe Marcoux. What has more authority? Just that
Ah,
downward
yeah.
inflection
I
versus
thought that's
upward.
because you were Canadian. I just didn't even think of it. So yeah,
And it even and yet regionally there are aspects of this. If you're in the United
yeah,
States or Canada and or even in the UK, when you're speaking to someone, your inflection will make a huge difference. How you look,
yeah,
how you present yourself
yeah,
will make a huge difference. AI, yeah, you can have a texting conversation. It'll save you time, help you create content. When it comes down to it, you and I next week, when we see each other, AI is not going to have an effect of when I give you a hug or I give you a high
yeah,
five, right? Like
yeah,
that I can tell you in the world of high ticket, it's going to
yeah,
be a while before I'm going to trust AI enough before I'm just click a button and spend 10 million bucks.
yeah,
This is all about relationships. Sales on the lower ticket stuff, AI is going to take over. There's no,
yeah,
and even still, I deal with some retailers, Chris. And
yeah,
even with some of these retailers that are selling products that they're competing against online, like they're competing with Amazon, and they're winning because of the relationships that they're and like these are $30 to $100 items in the store, and people keep coming back for a refill and refill, and it's
yeah,
because they have a relationship and it's the experience that this person's having.
yeah,
So that's what AI won't have, like critical thinking skills
yeah.
and emotional connection alignment. AI won't get it,
I
at
love
least
that.
not in the near future, and I'm going to say within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Don't see it.
No, I love that. And I think that's true that, you can take all these tools, you can use them to enhance your business, enhance the
Absolutely.
process and do
You'd be
that. But
foolish not to.
absolutely, absolutely. But you can seize on, as you said, this recession in HI. And Joe, you're doing that with your business.
Yeah.
So for listeners that want to take advantage, you got some awesome resources that we're going to have down here in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, click down below. Check out the show notes if you're listening to this on podcast. Joe, what's the best way for the audience to get in touch with you?
Right now, I'm going to encourage people to check out on Instagram at S.O.S. Dojo. If you want to get a hold of me, Go to at S.O.S Dojo. I'm really working on my Instagram account. And so I want people to see not just what I do, also who I am and what I stand for. Go
Awesome.
to Instagram. You'll be able to check me out there.
Beautiful. Joe, this has been a blast, man. I could talk about this all day long.
Yeah,
And if you're,
scratched the surface.
yeah, I know we only scratched the surface. And if you're listening, please check out Joe's website, sosdojo.com. Check him out at SOS Dojo on Instagram. Everybody sells. Use
Everybody.
Joe and the dojo to help you get better. Joe, thanks so much for being on today.
It's an honor, my friend. I'll see you next week.
Can't wait. Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.